Well, we spent a lot of time yesterday working on something that doesn't fix my problem. It's just moving my stuff from one place to another. That's the problem with people literally talking over me as if I'm retarded. That makes it impossible. That makes everything impossible. I don't need people to volunteer to do all this stuff. What I need them to do is listen to me. That's the most important part. Listen to understand, not to interrupt, not to fix everything, not to volunteer to do a bunch of shit that is unfucking necessary. The first thing to do is take fucking inventory and fucking prioritize. And that's the part that everybody talks over. Hey, can we start off by listening to the fucking victim? Not making it a fucking drilling session. And that's what it becomes with literally everyone. Like, hey, can you let me explain it once through without fucking interrupting? Please! If at the end you're still confused, that's when you ask fucking questions. The stuff that you're asking, you don't have to fucking ask. I'm already explaining it. Let me fucking explain. Let me finish saying what I'm saying! What I'm pissed off about isn't the help the people give me, it's the fact that they want to keep on pushing it! Like, hey, stop! Stop getting stuck on one thing and understand that you need to listen. If you keep pressuring me to do something without knowing the fuck what the consequences are, all you're doing is bullying. I'm begging you to listen. See, here's the thing. All I'm doing is moving my stuff from one place to another. And I have to be dependent upon others to move a goddamn thing. Instead of volunteering to move it, why don't you find out why and speak up? In order for me to have a chance in hell of stopping this abuse, I have to work on it every day, and I can't! I can't! I can't work on it every day because I can't get people to listen to fucking understand, which means not trying to fix it. It means listening. You listen with your ears, not with your mouth. When you say you will take the time to listen, then listen. Anyway, so this lady's gonna help me, and she has been. And I keep hoping that if we do what she wants, then maybe she'll listen one-on-one. See, that's the ultimate goal here, to get someone to listen, not to talk, not to ask 10 million questions, because that's what's making it confusing for you. You're busy asking questions. I'm trying to answer them already. Let me finish. But you get this one thing stuck in your head. This one thing is going to fix it. And every time I bring up the issues that I'm having, and I'm trying to explain why it's important, you're going to interrupt me every time to talk about the totes. Yes, I get that. It is a great idea. It is a great idea. Yes, absolutely. And you're telling me the same thing everybody else is. Why do you think I have so many fucking USB drives? I don't need you to suggest that I download shit onto a USB drive. I need a place to sit down with my fucking computer and work on it. When I'm trying to explain to you how stressful it is for me to jump through all the hoops that you want for every one of you, and I can't afford it. I need you to understand that. I can't afford it. If you would stop and do this goddamn inventory thing, what are my problems? How do they affect me? Let's write them the fuck down so that you will remember them. Instead of saying, I don't know, you don't need to keep saying that. It's a waste of fucking oxygen. I don't need you to know. I don't need you to know the fucking answer to everything. I'm capable of looking shit up. I am capable of remembering the shit that happened in fucking court. I'm not capable of reciting it back to you when you're talking over me. When you're pushing this one thing, this one fix it. We probably spent 45 minutes just talking about this one fix it just in the last couple of weeks. I'm like, this is not helpful. Can we please move on? There is more shit to cover. Instead of stopping and focusing on what you want, focus on what I need. I am capable of telling you what's going on. I'm capable of telling you my problems. But not when you won't shut up and listen. When I spend all of this time believing you're gonna listen and you never do, it does overwhelm me. When you're too busy saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I've been trying to explain to you from the fucking start. I ask everyone, please stop. Please stop and listen. And everybody, literally everyone gets offended by that. Literally everyone. Oh no, Sean, part of getting the help was listening to others. Holy shit! Do you know what the fuck is going on? No, you don't, because you never find out. You ask questions, but you don't listen to the answer. One of the easiest ways to tell that somebody's not listening to you is that they keep asking questions over and over and over again before you've ever finished. And the questions they ask will tell you what their friggin' intent is. If they're constantly asking you why you don't go do something else, they're showing that they don't intend on helping you. They want to blow you off so that their time is freed up for something else. I try to show people what's going on because I need them to speak up for me. I'm not allowed. But how can I get anyone else to speak up for me when I can't even get them to listen? Now, the most immediate issue has been Andrew Wolnez and the local police. All this bullshit in court. Everywhere I go, this is the way that it is. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. They like me. They talk nicely to me. Once in a while, they'll give me some money. Once in a while, they give me some clothes. But you know what? Most of that stuff just ends up getting shoved into my vehicle and taking up space. Yes, it's important to get my vehicle cleaned out, and I'm glad we did that. And that's part of getting help from others, is that you accept the help that they're giving and providing. But every time I try explaining what's going on, I get talked over by somebody who thinks they know better. Well, you don't know better. If you weren't there, you don't know better. That's why I try to show you the evidence, and everybody makes it as impossible as they can. They don't have an email that works. They don't have a phone that works. The phone doesn't work here. The phone doesn't work there. So what ends up happening? I end up spending 6 months trying to get in contact with somebody who's a witness to a situation, who promised to help in a situation, who just can't be reached. You don't think police officers should be ostracized for victimizing people, but you think their victims should be ostracized. That's the problem with America. Just one of many. Now, I am glad for the help that I got. I'm glad that they showed up. I certainly couldn't have done those things myself, and that is 100% certain. But the other problem is that the sheer quantity of bullshit that we all had to go through just to make that happen. Meanwhile, the most important thing, I'm trying to get these folks, instead of them wanting to organize and organize and organize and organize and organize, hey, it's all going to get messed up in a fucking week anyway. Or it's going to be stuck wherever it's organized for another 6 goddamn months. How about instead of organize, we stop, assess the fucking situation, and then proceed. But all of you have these in your head of what needs to be done. And that's what Sean needs to do. Sean needs to do it. No, I've done all those things. That's what I'm trying to fucking tell you. The fact that I already tried those things is fucking important. If you listen to me, we're not going to run into the same mistakes over and over again. The police here are not safe to go to. I am a disabled and at-risk adult. There is someone that I can go to, just not in Tillamook County. I can't afford to move. I can't afford to go anywhere because of victimization nonstop in Tillamook County. It's not that I don't go to anybody for help. It's that there has to be civilian oversight, and civilians seem pretty obviously intent on just saying they're sorry, they're sorry, they're sorry. Well, your sorries are just costing you a shit ton of money. They're costing your taxpayer dollars, and a lot of them. It's also costing me all of my disability money every month, hurrying up and waiting on that one person that will fucking listen. And I haven't found them yet. Listen once through. Just one fucking time through without interrupting. Please. My communication issues are based on the fact that it's fucking important and you keep interrupting. The more you interrupt, the more pissed off I'm gonna get because it's fucking important. It is important to know these details instead of walking in blind. And when you've got a quick fix for everything, you're wrong. There is no quick fix for any of this. The most important thing is to have a friend or family member acknowledge that it's fucking happening and help turn it in. But how can you acknowledge something is happening if you're busy with a whole bunch of suggestions? Sean, why don't you do this? Sean, why don't you do that? Sean, why don't we move you here? Why don't we move you there? Why don't you move here? Why don't you move there? I'm constantly fucking moving from one temporary fucking place to another without a steady address, and for certainly without a physical address, which is what's needed for most of the fucking shit that I need to get. I can't do a GoFundMe without a physical fucking address for them to send the goddamn card to. And I explain that to people, and they waste our time by not listening to that very goddamn important detail. I'm trying to tell you why it's been an issue. And you're busy ignoring the fact that I told you why it's been an issue. You think it'll be sent to your P.O. box. I have a fucking P.O. box. They won't send that shit to a P.O. box. I don't have access to my P.O. box because I can't get there because my vehicle's busted. I can't get my vehicle fixed because I'm flat fucking broke from running around in fucking circles trying to get fucking help. All of you shove me off onto these government agencies that don't give a shit. And I'm trying to explain that. Hey, I'm being abused, and none of the places you're sending me to are gonna give a shit unless you tell them that it's happening. And people don't. They got their idea of, hey, Sean, here's $20 for this. Why don't you go buy yourself a sandwich? Oh, Sean, here's some food. That ought to fix it. Well, it doesn't fix it. A sandwich doesn't stop people like Molly. A sandwich doesn't stop somebody like Tim Beeson. A sandwich doesn't stop somebody like Ted Bollinger. A sandwich doesn't stop somebody like Andrew Wolnez. A sandwich doesn't get the cops to do their fucking jobs. I try to explain to people the safety issues that I have and the things that I am incapable of doing for myself. That doesn't mean volunteer for all of them, because you're never going to have time. You're never going to make time. You have lives to live, and you shove that in my face as often as you can. You may not mean it that way, but when you do that every single time that you leave somebody fucking hanging, but you don't tell anyone else. We'll say, oh, well, now you got somebody who'll do that. And then 6 months down the road, I'm still waiting on them. There's a fucking time limit on turning this shit in. But it needs to be done safely. That means not just believing an officer just because he said so. All cops are liars. All of them. The more broke you are, the bigger liars they are. And then when they get busted lying, well, they start lying a whole bunch more. Now, the thing is, two of those folks yesterday, it was their day off, and they spent the day helping me to clean out my car. But I wish that they would have taken the time to listen while they were here. I never get to explain the point. See, here's the abuse that I've endured, and here's how it affects me. That's cause and effect. The police not doing their jobs when I first got here and sending me around in circles to all these places alone resulted in a severe safety issue with the police. Them allowing my predators to get away because they just didn't want to investigate. And then I get treated like I didn't try. Or there's all these places they get money, but they only apportion 50 minutes. And 45 minutes of that is spent talking over you and doing paperwork. Meanwhile, my only protection from that is somebody who's actually there to listen and the ability to record. And many of these places, oh, they think you should be able to record. Just, you shouldn't be able to record them. But we have the right to do so. Especially if we have reason to believe that they're going to commit a felony. When there's a safety issue that has been brought up with these agencies, those safety issues need to be addressed. Instead of sending us back to places that it is unsafe to send us back to because they've already fucked up. Sorting this stuff 300 fucking times doesn't do me any good. It is important to have it sorted. But it's been sorted that what I need is a place to sort through it myself. Because yesterday there was a lot of shit that got thrown away that shouldn't have. And it still took us all day to do it. I'm having to leave my stuff and have people take it to their places because I don't have a place of my own to put it. I don't have a place of my own to sort it out. And those people inevitably later on are going to say, hey, well, I did this, and this, and this. Yeah, but did you listen? Or did you go with the first problem that you heard and decide, all right, well, we're going to focus on that. We're going to hyper-focus on that and nothing but that. That's what we're going to focus on. No, that's the wrong thing to do in this situation because there are a lot of things going on. It's a lot easier to prioritize if you know what those things are. One of the other issues is many people saying, well, I don't know who to say it to. Well, that's what we make calls for. You make the call with me. That way it doesn't turn into an argument when I tell you what I have to do. Here's a piece of paper I got to fill out. Here's how it needs to be turned in. This is what I need to be able to fill out that paperwork. Are we focusing on any of those three? No, most of the time people want to try to convince me that I need to do something else. No, literally everything else allows those predators to get away to do it again and again and again and again. And it costs me mentally and financially as well as emotionally every time I have to move because the cops wouldn't do their jobs and nobody else cared enough to listen. And I try to fill people in on the situation with Natalie because that is what everyone's excuse is to harm me. Pretending I'm some sort of a fucking monster because some fucking junkies destroyed my life. And then police officers prey on the fact that they have a badge, so people are just going to believe them. And a lot of people who know better than to believe the police still come back and tell you that shit because it alleviates them doing anything. But the fact is, it's already a dangerous situation with the police. And my situation is constantly changing. Every single day, more shit happens. And all I can do is sit in my vehicle and wish that someone would listen to understand. How many of you can listen to somebody speak and actually hear them? When you start asking questions, I have to try to explain to you multiple situations. Because I have to get you to understand why these things are happening. And I need you to understand the situation with Natalie because, of course, there's the stuff that's happening now. And then there's the reason that it's happening. Why is it that I've been repeatedly forced to move? Is it because I'm a bad, evil, horrible person? No! It's because none of these services give a shit unless civilians care. And all these civilians will do is pawn me off onto these services. Or they won't show up for the appointments to listen. But they'll schedule appointments to go elsewhere. We'll go do this and we'll go do that. Well, let's feel out the situation first. But the most important thing there is to take the time to listen. Now, this lady, she's made it to multiple appointments, and she absolutely has. She has gone above and beyond. There is no fucking doubt. She's not a bad person by any fucking means. Most of these people are not bad people. They don't understand that I've been going through this for 14 months. To everybody else, it's, oh, well, no biggie, what's another day? What's another day? It's another day of me not being able to function. That's what another day is. It's another day of me being victimized out here. It's another day closer to my deadlines being over. And there being no chance of putting a stop to this. It's not just one day, especially when everyone does that. It's just one day thing over and over and over again. I need someone else to care. And that means listening to understand the situation. That means cause and effect. When I say I can't safely go to the hospital because I had to go to the hospital here alone. And there are safety issues there that need to be addressed. You saying, oh, I'll go in with you, that doesn't address the safety issue. It does slightly in part. But those safety issues with the hospital need to be addressed first, before I have an emergency, before I'm fucking abused. When I'm trying to tell you important details and you're wanting to push this thing that you've said over 50 times, I heard you. I heard you, and I said, yes, we can do that. Now, can we get off of that? Because there is more going on here. Please take a look. I'm tired of people victimizing me and pretending it's okay because they were uncomfortable. I'm tired of the cops letting people harm me over and over. And if I'm uncomfortable because people are threatening me and fucking assaulting me, you pretend what? That I'm delusional? That I'm schizophrenic? I record that shit, assholes. And if you weren't busy giving me the mentally ill fucking druggie treatment, I could fucking trust you, stupid pigs. Now, like I've said often, looks like I got a phone call from see if they leave a message. Probably not. Very likely a scam call wanting me to do something with the flood insurance on the house that I don't have. I've been getting a few of those. It's either house insurance or car insurance. The thing is, it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things, and you need to know what those lot of things are. And that's what I'm trying to show people. That's why I'm trying to explain to them. I can't. I fucking can't. You want me to get the shit for Leslie Snell? I gotta go to storage to get it. Instead of saying, oh, well, I don't want you to have to walk up the stairs and down the stairs. Well, you know what? I have to get the fucking evidence whether you want me going up the stairs and down the stairs or not. See, I'm trying not to be a burden on people. If they're able to actually listen so they know what's going on, then I don't have to jump through all of their suggestions, because here's what I have to hope with their suggestions. After we've done what you suggested, will you listen? Will you listen before we go in, please? A lot of people are like, oh, Sean, you just set it up and I'll show up. Like, well, okay. But are you going to find out what's going on between now and then? Because if not, you're just wasting my time, because goddamn sure the lawyer ain't going to listen. Not unless somebody else speaks up with me. A little time turns into a lot of time when you're not listening, when you're busy talking, when you're busy making suggestions, when you're getting stuck on something. Yes, my car needs cleaned out, and I am glad to have the totes. I didn't pay for those totes. I'm glad for the USB drive that I have, because now I have another USB drive that I can use, hopefully, so that none of the other evidence gets destroyed. The problem, I'll need somebody to carry my computer in and out of the fucking building. How pathetic is that? I've done all the things that people keep suggesting I do for my safety to the best of my ability. The folks who wanted me to park here helped to push me here. They had good intentions. The folks who helped me clean out my car, their suggestion. And they even tried to pull some favors so we could throw away the garbage. Like I said, throwing away trash is not an easy thing. People get real angry if you throw away too much garbage. Meanwhile, I needed to go through a lot of my evidence, go through a lot of the pieces of paper that got wet because they were important. And they got thrown away because they were wet. So I had to try to pluck some of them out that I could see on the top of the garbage bags so that I wouldn't lose them. Yes, I get that it's wet and it's unsightly, but it's still full of evidence and it needs to be kept. Instead of just assuming that because it's wet and dirty that it needs to be thrown away, understand that I kept it for a reason. I try to keep all of that mail and all of those files, but I can't possibly go through it all. It's not possible because for the last 7 years, all of that stuff is stacked up. I've got 7 years worth of fucking paperwork to go through. When somebody's in a crisis because of abuse, they don't need a fucking crisis line to send them around in fucking circles. Police won't look at any of my evidence. They've outright refused. Unless somebody has been there to try to force them to take a look and insist that they take a look. Someone like Molly Smith of Sidney, Nebraska. When I talk about my friends, I'm talking about my long-term friends. A lot of the folks here, they say, when you say, your friends didn't this and your friend didn't do that and all that, well, aren't we friends? Well, I'm trying to be friends. But also, I'm in a fucking terrifying situation. Do you not understand that? Some of them sort of do. There's a few of the women here who have told me about their exes, and they have some very comparable stories to mine, except mine weren't exes. It was just growing up in the system. But there seems to be a lot, especially here, a lot of women who are uncomfortable with short men, ugly men, homeless men. And I can see out here on the streets why. I can also see from these people in houses why. A lot of these people in houses are doing the same thing. People don't understand why it is that I'm so easy to victimize. Well, it's because people just call me mentally ill and I'm not heard, I'm talked over. And then I'm stressed because no matter what, I'm getting talked over. I was trying to explain a very important detail about me not being able to do this stuff in my car myself, and me not being able to sort the paperwork up there in storage myself. How are they going to sort it? She was saying that she was going to sort it by date. Well, it's already been sorted and put in bags. It's already been gone through. That's all already been done. Now, putting it in totes is just a matter of picking them up and putting them in the totes. But the thing is, I need that paperwork now. I need access to that paperwork now. I've needed access to that paperwork since I first started collecting it. And all the police are interested in is separating me from my evidence. And people keep saying, oh, well, you need to duplicate it. I know! I fucking know! I need help with that! Instead of telling me over and over, sit with me and help me to do it. Stop offering to do shit for me. Because that makes me dependent on you and your time frame and whether or not you get sick. If you teach me how to do that with the hour that we have, then I'll know how to do it myself. If you sort through it all, then I can't find the shit that I know where it's at. I may not know exactly which plastic trash bag it's in, but when I see the folders, it's pretty easy to tell. When I did have the ability to organize, I did organize. I had to go through that evidence repeatedly. The problem is the same problem that lady was bringing up yesterday. And the gentleman that helped me yesterday. Who do we go to? When I have to fight this hard to get people to look at evidence or even listen, that's the most important part right there. Listening. Actually listen to understand. The point here is that a lot of people make bad decisions, information, or when they have the wrong information. The reason I try to get people to look at it is so that when my predators lie to them, they know they're being lied to. When there's a safety issue, that safety issue needs to be addressed. When a person has to be afraid to call 911 because they're homeless and male, well, it really goes to show what kind of a screwed up world we live in. You can tell a lot about society based on how they treat the most at risk of their society. That would be homeless men, believe it or not. The problem with people wanting to volunteer to do stuff and wanting to push that over and over and over and over and over and over again is that it's not only frustrating for me, It eats up a lot of time just listening to them do that until I finally give in and say, all right, let's do that. Obviously, you're not going to be able to move past it. Obviously, that's the end all beat all for you, and that'll fix every one of my problems, so we'll do what you want. I'll do what you want as long as you please listen this time. Please take the time to listen before we go to this place or before we go to that place. And a lot of people have said, oh, well, Sean, I went to this appointment or I made that call with you. I'm like, yeah, but did you find out what was going on beforehand? Or did you pressure me to do things that I was not comfortable doing because you didn't know what was going on? When you're trying to force decisions on me that you have made without knowing all the information or even listening, you are making it worse. No matter what your intentions are, you're making it worse. When the victim tells you, hey, I need you to listen to what's going on, that doesn't mean make 10,000 suggestions. That doesn't mean go off on a story about yourself. Grandma in 1968. That doesn't mean interrupt to say you're sorry 10,000 times. I'm sorry that happened. And you can hear in so many of my recordings where people do that. They want to do the I'm sorry thing followed by a fucking pep speech. Well, I don't need that fucking shit. I don't need a fucking pep speech. We've been taught social niceties. Well, those are not solutions. Because social niceties, well, it all comes down to what's rude and what isn't. And that all depends on who you are and what you look like and how much money you got and a bunch of other stupid shit. It doesn't come down to your content of character or who you are as a person. People are more likely to listen to someone that they're physically attracted to. Physically attractive, and I don't try to be. A lot of people have tried to convince me that I should cut off my beard and make myself all presentable. And you know what? First of all, that's a lot of work. Second of all, it doesn't get anything accomplished. It still doesn't get me heard because I still don't have an address. I don't have a place to sit down with my evidence and actually sort through it. While people are telling me, oh, well, I'll help you sort through it in a week. We'll go through the papers and we'll file that. That's not sorting through it. No, you're completely missing the point of sorting through it. It's not like it's just a big pile of papers stuffed in a bag. No, that's not it at all. It's a bunch of papers that need to be gone through and sent to the right places. The point of showing you that it's impossible for me to do this in these conditions isn't for you to volunteer to do these things one at a time, once every 6 weeks, and then it end up being, well, me waiting for 6 weeks. I understand you don't mean harm by it, but you're doing harm by it. And that's because you've already got an idea in your head and you're going to run with it instead of listening to the victim. See, the problem here is that I needed to be able to safely turn this shit in right away. And none of you are stopping to understand what safely means. Once they've already fucked up, they've already created the safety issue. They're not likely to be honest with anyone after they've fucked up. That goes especially for law enforcement. And when you try to turn in law enforcement, all law enforcement will stand in your way and fuck you. The thing is, unless you listen to my stories so you know what people have been doing to me, you're not going to be prepared when they do that. When I call these agencies to turn it in and they say there's something that needs to be done, it needs to be done right away. It doesn't need to be done in 6 fucking months. There are deadlines coming up for multiple assaults that happened to me. And because those assaults happened at the hospital, that is a safety issue that cannot be ignored. Now, these people who want to tell me their stories so that I know that they understand. No, you don't. You don't understand my situation. You're not listening to the details of my situation. You're wanting to say, emotionally, you know. No, you don't. Not emotionally or otherwise. And I'm trying to show you that. None of you know to the extent that I have fucking been through hell. When we focus on just one of these predators and pretend that these are all isolated incidents, no! They're not isolated incidences. All of this shit is over the crap with Natalie Bollinger. Her friends her friends' druggy contacts and her family. A bunch of drug addicts, child molesters, and rapists. There's a lot of people whose excuse is that, oh, well, I'm in a different state. Well, Kara Johnson Miles is in Texas. Doesn't matter what fucking states you're in. I'm a fucking disabled and at-risk adult, and not fucking one of you tried to help fucking turn this in. Not a single one of you. You don't try to find out what's going on. You've got suggestions and ideas in your head, and you'll believe anything that you're told. That's why I ask you to look at evidence. A lot of people, they listen to my predators and then they tell me, oh, well, I thought this, and this. Well, there's a reason that you thought that. I'm trying to show you evidence that it's wrong. But you're not willing to hear it because you've already decided. If you've already decided, you're not going to be able to help because you've already decided. When it's happening to you, it's an emergency, right? When it happens to you, it's trauma. But when it happens to somebody else, oh, they're just being dramatic. When people make time to make one call in a day, and then they don't make another call for 6 weeks, or they tell you to send evidence and you send it and they're having problems getting it. And over again, you have to dig through for that time for something that you could simply show them if they were right next to you. So even though we plan, right? We plan on hopefully having time to listen to Sean. It ends up being Sean doing what everybody else wants to plan. Hearing what's going on is more important than me having clothes. And getting my evidence somewhere safe is more important than my life. And if you guys want to pretend to give a shit about my life, then you better fucking give a shit about my evidence. And not a goddamn one of you do. It's like pulling teeth to get you to look or listen. It's dehumanizing. What happened when I had to go back to the Dual County Sheriff's Department about being assaulted repeatedly after I tried to turn them in and was illegally prevented from doing so? Well, by illegally preventing me from turning them in, what happened? Well, they got to investigate. They got to be the investigators. And, of course, they never did anything wrong, did they? They helped my predators to get away when I had to turn in my predators to Dual County Sheriff's Department. I should have never had to go to Dual County Sheriff's Department after the bullshit that Scott DaCosta, the sheriff of Dual County, pulled. And the same thing here. I need people to stop volunteering to fix shit and actually listen to what the issues are. When I get through part of what one of my issues is and how it affects me, I don't get to explain how it affects me because it's going to be a 45-minute, well, we should do this, and this. And you're not going to fucking come off of it. All right? 7 years worth of hell, and I'm trying to show it to you, but we're stuck on what you want to ask. I've already pulled up everything I need to show you. But now, instead of looking at that stuff that you asked to see, now we're trying to answer all of your fucking questions, and it's going to take hours to scroll through and find it. So instead of asking 10 million questions, let me speak and let me show you what the fuck is going on. You're eating up so much time. We could have taken 1 hour. 1 hour for you to get acquainted. All you had to do is listen. Listen. You do that with your ears. You don't stop to listen, to understand. Why can't I function? Because I am victimized everywhere I go. And the most important part is getting heard. The only people who listen are my predators, and they only listen to try to find parts that they can twist into something it ain't. My predators make the time. My friends do not. Let's use Wolnez as an example. How many times has Wolnez assaulted me or my personal property just on camera? How many? Since September 1st. September 21st. There's over a dozen occasions of him throwing rocks at my vehicle. There's at least half a dozen videos of him kicking my vehicle, if not more. Meanwhile, having somebody there at the very start who gave a shit to help me to turn it in right away is what's needed. Ignoring the issue doesn't make it stop. Ignoring Wolnez does not stop Wolnez. Ignoring the victim does not stop the predators. Talking over the victim does not stop the predators. And any suggestion that you make, other than looking at the fucking evidence, listening to the fucking victim and turning it in, is going to be a wrong suggestion. If you are trying to pawn them off on some agency, you are making the wrong suggestion. If you offer to go into that agency with them, that is possibly help. But when it becomes an unsafe situation, you need to listen to the victim about it. Now, the lady that helped me, she only knew a teeny tiny bit of what's going on, and she set up some appointments. One of them with a guy named Micah, who I'd already seen, but I had him saved in my phone as Mike. So I had No way to know that he was the same guy. Now, when I tried to talk to him on the phone, he was busy talking over me. When I saw him in person, same thing. When I saw him in person, I was willing to meet him, but he was wanting to rush us into the building. No, none of these people are listening. None of them. I was willing to meet this Micah guy, but we needed to sit down and have a conversation, me and this lady, first, before we did any of that. And instead of having that sit down and listen, it's always become a situation where she's got a suggestion and she's going to power pound that suggestion. Now, does that make this woman a bad person? No, it does not. She's feeling time constraints too, and she wants to get the problem knocked out of the way. But the problem is that it doesn't work that way. We have to prioritize. That also means making suggestions that are not just speaking out our asses over and over again. So many people have these suggestions that I move to this place or move to that place. With what money? How long is it going to take me to get set up in another place? What other place am I supposed to go? Instead of saying, oh, Sean, where do you want to move? How about you stop and address the abuse? Because it doesn't matter where I move to, I will have to take it. The financial abuse that I've had to endure that has robbed me of all of my disability money, I cannot get past that unless someone fucking acknowledges it. See, the thing is, I don't need people to volunteer to do all this shit. That's not what I need. I need people to listen so they're aware of how fucked up a situation it is. When we're sitting down together, it's pretty important to write down the names. Now, this lady who's been trying to help me, she's spent a lot of time going around to places with me. She's also written stuff down. She also spent a lot of time helping me clean out my car yesterday. It was her day off. She works for a living. She's got a family. That's one of the things that a lot of my predators have been able to use to prey on me. They have families. I don't matter because they have families. I don't matter because they had unprotected sex. It's insane how it works, even though it doesn't work. All that does is make all males in this country victims. All of us have to be afraid to say no. We got this slogan that we've gotten to hear most of my life, no means no. Well, you know what? That's not true. There aren't very many women that I am aware of that think that no means no. Somebody says it to them. You get to see how when I ask people to leave me alone, how they just make it worse. They just harp on me worse. They just harass me worse. What are we taught as kids to do when we have bullies? We're supposed to ask the bully to stop. Tell them how it makes us feel. What do they do then? They make fun of us for telling them how we feel. They get together with their friends and make it worse. Without fucking fail. Then there's a lot of people that, oh, well, these people are related to these people, so they couldn't do anything wrong. That's small town thinking. You know, if you were to base all of my relatives based on me, especially if you knew me between 2003 and 2015, well, you'd probably shoot yourself in the head because they're nothing like me. Before I hurt my back, I was Mr. Deeds indeed. My life was trying to get unhomeless and trying to help others who were homeless. They didn't freeze to death. And most of all, protecting children and protecting us from those children. There's a lot of children who have shitty home lives. Parents who don't care where they go. And they seek attention in the wrong places. A lot of these young women, they're taught from a very young age that they're more mature than boys. And so they get it in their head that they're going to go date a real man, and that's just all sorts of sickness that doesn't need to happen. A lot of those girls that were hanging out on Pearl Street, they didn't need to be on Pearl Street. There was no reason for them to be there other than seeking attention. My predators are allowed to do whatever they want to me. And I'm told that the things they're doing are not illegal. However, if I do those things back, they're illegal, aren't they? If people actually threaten me, there's no problem with that. But if I state a fact, like, we're all going to die, every one of us, none of us are going to live forever, then that's treated as a veiled threat. Shit, if I'm going to threaten you, I'll threaten you outright. The other thing is, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I followed through with most of my threats, which means they're not threats. A lot of people promised me they were going to come forward and they were going to tell the truth. They just didn't want their names public. And then they wasted my time. And then they were pissed off that their names were public. Well, guess what? You had ample opportunity to come forward and tell the truth about the situation. Kayla Trujillo, between her admitting on my YouTube channel, or admitting to me in a conversation between her and I, that I was at her house when we got the phone call that Natalie Bollinger was missing. It's also recorded from her what my reaction was. It's also recorded from her in those conversations what I was there for. But those things were not in court. Why weren't they in court? Because Miss Peaches never tried. She never tried to help turn it in. She certainly never tried to help with actually hearing the situation without making 10,000 suggestions. You know what she wanted to do about the abuse before Natalie was killed? Here's what she wanted to try. She wanted to hook me up with a dating site. You know what the result of that was? Me getting a whole bunch of solicitations from, oh, I'm married, but I'm horny. Maybe we could meet someplace. No, not interested. There was lots of people like Lanny Engeline whose opinion was that I just needed to get laid. These are women telling me these things. Oh, Sean, you just need to get laid. No, getting laid doesn't stop abuse. Getting laid doesn't stop assaults. Like, you really think it works that way? Like this is some sort of Boy Scout badge thing? I have my life threatened enough time, I get a pity fuck? No, not cool. Sex doesn't fix these problems. And the fact that there are so many women who want to push sex as a solution is beyond me. Then again, there are a lot of women that I know who are able to defuse the situation by using sex. I've seen it. I've heard it. But should that be necessary? The other thing is that really does show privilege, because most guys ain't going to be able to do that. Most guys aren't Johnny Depp in his prime. Most guys are not Tyson Beckford in his prime. Most guys are not George Clooney in his prime. Or Brad Pitt. We're just not those guys. Now, a lot of women are used to being able to use that as a tool. They're also able to use the idea of sex as a tool. Like, oh, it's a guy that I'm having an issue with because when I was strung out on drugs and being a dumb hoe bag, I made a mistake and now I don't want to get in trouble for it. Well, that's all sorts of fucked up. I'll just pretend he's a stalker. I'll just say I'm uncomfortable. Well, you know what? When you do something really fucked up, you should feel uncomfortable. You should be afraid of consequences. But when you go pretending that somebody is threatening to kill you because they're trying to take you to court, you're a special kind of piece of shit. I need people to make these calls with me, and they don't understand what that actually means. It means actually sitting down and making the phone calls, not 6 weeks away, not 6 months away, not 30 canceled appointments away. And when the most important thing is listening, all those appointments, other than that listening part, are wasted if you're not listening, because that guarantees that you're not speaking up at those appointments. You're not advocating at all for those victims. You're just setting up appointments and hoping somebody else will do that. Well, no, they have to have a reason to. And since they're not listening to the victim, you have to speak up for the victim. You. And how many of you try to understand that? Especially if the victim is male. Especially if the victim is homeless. See if I can get this piece of wire broken off to hold this piece of lanyard that I have. That ought to keep it from getting turned into a knot. Now, obviously, I'm thankful for all of the stuff that people have done for me that has been useful. A lot of the stuff that's not useful, I went along with it because I was hoping that if I did, that they would finally listen. That has not been shown to be the case in any situation. Matter of fact, the more I go along with what they want, the less they listen. The less they understand, the less they comprehend, the less they try to understand or comprehend, and the more frustrated they get. People are allowed to get frustrated with me. They're allowed to raise their voice with me. They're allowed to yell at me. What am I allowed to do? Most people get pissed off that I even speak up about what's going on. How dare you, Sean? How dare you speak up? How dare you tell the truth about the situation? How dare you tell on me in public for punching you in the face? How dare you tell on me in public? Well, shit, I tried telling on you in private. I tried taking care of it the right way and the legal way. But apparently there's no such thing. With the amount of assaults that have been recorded on my YouTube channel, it's pretty obvious that these things are actually happening. With the amount of drug use that have been recorded on my YouTube channel, it's pretty obvious these things are actually happening. With the amount of police recorded on my channel, it's pretty obvious these things are actually happening. With the number of those people that have been in jail and prison for the things I told you they did, maybe it's time you start actually listening. I wish that weren't too much to ask. Now, a lot of people tell me, oh, that's just how women are. No, 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 it's not. We cannot blame this on gender. I mean, I suppose we could. I get on here and I blame both genders all the time. I also explain while I'm blaming each gender that it's not really the genders, it's individuals. Whether they be male or female, it's individuals who made decisions. And some of their decisions are outright gross. When your decisions get innocent people hurt or killed, they're bad decisions. When you're trying to rush someone to make decisions, when they're trying to get you to stop rushing, please stop rushing and listen before you pressure me into doing something that's against any of our best interests. The most important part is taking the time to listen, not buying things for the victim. Not going, oh, well, it would be nice to buy this for the victim, or it would be nice to buy that for the victim. Is it something that the victim is going to find useful? Now, these folks have bought the electronic stuff that's needed to make sure that my electronics do work properly. The ones here in Tillamook, and throughout this, a lot of people have been able to do that and been willing to do that. But that's not what they promised to do. The promising to listen, that is the most important thing that you can do for a victim, is listen to them. Listen to understand, not to talk over them, not to make suggestions. Just listen to understand. Don't stop to tell them that you're confused, because whether you're confused or not, you need to not interrupt the story, because whatever it is that's confusing you might become less confusing in just a minute. That question that you're asking, well, chances are pretty good that in a situation like mine, the victim has been asked that question a million times already, and they're trying to answer it already. And it would be a lot easier to do that if you weren't derailing the train by trying to pretend to yourself that you had to lead them into talking. No, you don't. All you need to do is shut up. You don't have to ask questions. I'm going to answer them. If somebody's been raped, you don't have to ask them who did it. They're going to tell you. If someone's telling you that they need help turning in their rapist, they're going to tell you who did it. You don't have to stop them to ask. When I explain that I'm being harassed on the internet, and when you want to ask stuff like, who are these people? Well, I'm already explaining that to you. They're people on the internet. Now I'm going to go into detail about individually which peoples these are. People like Adam Klein and Jennifer, what was her name? Jennifer Farina Bollinger. Natalie's grandma got into that shit. Her mom got into that shit. And for me, while my predators and Natalie's predators were paid money, while people felt sorry for them and paid them money, there were people who felt bad for me too. And they were sending money to help me, but I didn't have control of those accounts. Other people did. People who didn't come forward about it. And because they didn't come forward about it, I get treated like I made up a whole bunch of GoFundMes that I got paid millions of dollars from and defrauded a bunch of people. The reality is, those GoFundMes, one of them was made by Candace Bondurant, and one of them was made by Cara Rogers, and I never saw a penny out of either one of them. And a lot of people were mad at me because they had sent me money, they said. They had sent me money to help me out. Well, they didn't send me money to help me out. They sent Carl Rogers money to help me out. They sent Candace Bondurant money to help me out. Now, the evidence shows that I was trying to get a GoFundMe started before Natalie was killed. Matter of fact, just the night before Natalie was killed, I was having conversations with a woman named Shauna Sinclair. Natalie's mom wanted to get on to the two posts that I made, one of them about Shauna Sinclair's daughter going missing, and one of them about Mandy Singer's son going missing. And she wanted to call me a stalker and harass me on my Facebook. These people had no problems with harassing me on my Facebook and having no qualms about it. But when I asked for help stopping, they pretended that me asking for help stopping the abuse was harassment. No, it's not. And it's certainly not stalking. Please stop hurting me. Doesn't fucking work. Making me go back to my predators to turn them into themselves, or turn anyone else into them for that matter, doesn't fucking work. Having a friend or family member look at the evidence and understand I need help sending that to the FBI. I need help sending that to each of these individual agencies. I don't have a place to do that, and I can't just wait on you to be dependable, because you will never be dependable. The least you can do is be dependable enough to listen and speak out, instead of wanting to suggest 10 million other things that you're never going to get around to, or that you're only going to get around to when it's too late to make any difference whatsoever. Good intentions don't stop abuse. The other thing is, when you're trying to talk over the victim because you're in a time crunch, you're making it so that you're getting nothing accomplished because you're not listening to the victim. You're pressuring them to go faster, is what you're doing at that point. When you're telling them to be patient, no, they can't be patient. How many times has Wolnez been predatory towards me while I've been patient? How many times has he assaulted me while I've had to be patient? How many times has he threatened me while I've had to be patient? And how have the police treated me when I went to them for help? Some of them talked nicely, but they still talked over me. They didn't want to try understanding my disabilities, and they didn't want to allow me things that are so bare minimum. Like, if you're going to require them to write a report before you'll do any investigating whatsoever, maybe you should allow them a report to write on instead of telling them, oh, well, you just tell us what happened and we'll write it down. And you put down 2 little notes and then everything else you just ignore. Police don't investigate crimes against the homeless anywhere in the fucking country, unless they are fucking pressured to do so. The problem is, like in a situation like here, Lothman already fucked up real big, and so did his co-workers. Are they going to admit that they fucked up? Are they going to apologize to me or to the public for their fuck-ups? No. Meanwhile, when I'm frustrated about the situation, there's a lot of people who want to pretend like I'm blaming them. The only thing I blame people for is not listening. They don't understand because they're not listening. They're busy making suggestions. That doesn't make them evil people, and it doesn't mean that I hate them. Now, there's a lot of people who wanted to pretend like I was out to hurt them because I was trying to take them to court. And then what happened? I was illegally prevented from going to court. This is the shit I need people to pay attention to. Why am I showing them this evidence? Because what was said in court is not the truth. And that shit that was said in court to this day prevents me from having my human and civil rights acknowledged. All of my disability money has been ripped off because I don't have somebody to help me process it. I have people that I have to wait on for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or even in some of these cases, 8 years. People promised to help before I finally got them to go away. You like how I said that? Yeah, if we're only friends when you want something, but you're going to pity party me when I need help. Yeah, that's not a friend. That's fair weather friends. When you have a rough time, you're just being negative. When they have a rough time, they need help. Well, that's not a two-way street. Meanwhile, there's a lot of these folks with spouses, husbands, wives, or have parents in their lives who actually give a shit. And when those ones are pity partying me, holy shit. You want to talk to me about white privilege? God, you got the privilege of having a family and a roof over your head. That gives you a lot of rights. Rights that were denied to me. I had to pay rent in 2 different places, 2 different states, in order to try to get the help that I was supposed to be entitled to as an American. The rights that I was supposed to be entitled to as a physically disabled person in this country. All of you people who make me make these calls alone. You're the ones who shouldn't be here. A lot of people don't understand that I have to do this shit every day. When they volunteer after 6 weeks to carry my computer up, well, thank you very much for that, but you're missing the point. For the last 6 weeks, you could have listened to me. For the last 6 weeks, you could have heard what it is that I'm trying to tell you. You could have heard the important details that I can't put on Facebook, that I can't put on YouTube. When you want to go, oh, well, don't you have most of it on YouTube? No, I don't. No, I fucking don't. That's the problem. And I've been saying that repeatedly, and you don't hear me. Why ask the question if you're just going to ignore the answer and pretend I didn't? And y'all are such shitty people. When you wasting their time like that, and everybody else also doing exactly the same thing, because it's a disabled homeless man, it's magically okay. They're not as important, right? Wrong. There's a lot of legal precedents that have been set that are unconstitutional, but they did it to homeless people and nobody cared, so they were able to make the legal precedents. Things that are unconstitutional are magically constitutional if you do them to a homeless man. You're missing the point of all of this. I am being abused, and I need help stopping it. And that means I need a friend or family member to fucking acknowledge that it's happening. And to speak up with me, not 6 years down the road. There are plenty of places that we can call. But we have to do it together. That is the one thing that I tell everyone. We have to do it together. Also, we can't go back to the places that already fucked up. They're not going to do their jobs even if they talk nice. They're not going to be honest even if they talk nice. Instead of telling the victim to jump through all of these fucking hoops, listen to them. Otherwise, you're going to walk them into more victimization. When I've been abused to the point that I want my life to end, instead of saying you don't want to hear that, understand that that's the shit you need to fucking pay attention to. Instead of trying to tell them they need to go to mental health because they want their fucking life to end, why don't you find out why? You stupid shits. Ask them why, and then shut the fuck up and goddamn listen. If you listen in real life, I don't have to go to fucking YouTube. If you listen in real life, I don't have to go to fucking Facebook. When you're not even willing to try the legal route, and you're just going to make every excuse that the legal route's not going to work, but you're still going to promise that you're going to help go the legal route. Meanwhile, you take your dear sweet fucking time and never follow through. What did I need my sister to do? I didn't need her to spend 3 fucking days organizing paperwork. I needed her to fucking pay attention to her fucking brother instead of the fucking junkies that she brought over to the house. I didn't pay her to hang out with Ed and his mom. I paid my sister to take the situation and me seriously, and she did not. All she did is rip me off. I'm not allowed to have an emotional reaction to being abused or being talked over. See, most of these folks think I need them to make my decisions for me. No, that's not what I'm saying. When you're pretending that I'm just too stupid to know what to do. No, that is a bad assumption. Maybe you should listen instead of running with your assumptions. I'm tired of being victimized because nobody wants to take a look or speak up, especially not with me. And if you're not doing it with me, then you're not doing it. You actually have to come forward with it, and not 6 months down the road or 6 years down the road. You need to do so immediately. When there's safety issues, instead of saying, well, I don't know who to call, well, I've got a whole list of people to call. Try calling those places with me. But be fucking informed, for Christ's sake. Meanwhile, I can't even keep my goddamn battery charged. None of this gets it to where I have access to it. Given my computer, to somebody else, for them to take everything off my computer somewhere else. No, that's not working with me. That's making me entirely dependent on you. How about help to enable me to have the fucking resources that I am fucking entitled to? How about instead of table talking and then reinterpreting everything to me, where I have to take your fucking word for it, how about you fucking record it? I've got recording after recording after recording of people telling me, oh, I told the cops this and I told the cops that. And I call up the cops, and the cops said, nope, they didn't say this, and they didn't say that, and I didn't say any of the things they claimed I said. Well, there's a reason I record that shit, isn't there? For example, the situation with Alyssa Rainwater and Amanda Jonas, Officer Amanda Jonas. The things Amanda Jonas said, and they're recorded on this YouTube channel, don't match up with what Alyssa Rainwater said, and that's recorded on this channel too. It's pretty obvious listening to those two conversations that Amanda Jonas had intentionally misled the situation about turning in Ted Bollinger, and that they had intentionally gone out of their way to assist my predators. They went out of their way to assist Kara Johnson Miles, Danica Garner, Rochelle Shelley Campbell in slandering my name, gaslighting me, and destroying my humanity, for Christ's fucking sake. Meanwhile, I'm not allowed to tell you how it makes me feel. And I'm expected to listen to you every time you have a beef. But you want to defend yourself every time I have a problem. When you do something harmful to me, you're not going to hear me. You're too busy getting defensive. How about finding out how it hurts me? Instead of doing it again and again and again. How about keep your fucking word when you say you will? How about when you don't keep your word, you speak up about it? You write it down. You make sure it's fucking documented instead of letting me get treated like I'm schizophrenic. Instead of making me go in alone. Like Shannon Alvarado, another perfect example. Kara Johnson Miles wanted to pretend like she was an autism advocate and she was going to help me. Shannon Alvarado exposed the fact that she was not an autism advocate and that all she was doing was gaslighting me so that she could slander me in these web sleuth groups. But when did Shannon Alvarado ever come forward? I've got dozens of conversations with Shannon Alvarado that showed she literally never tried. She literally never tried. To this day, she literally made zero effort at any point to turn it in. By her own admission. Let alone trying to turn it in with me, which is what I ask of all of these people. Turn it in with me for my fucking safety. I'm a homeless man. Americans are shitty to homeless men. You blame us for everything you're not allowed to blame on black people anymore. You blame us for everything you're not allowed to blame on Jews anymore. You blame us for everything you're not allowed to blame on immigrants anymore. Americans are disgusting people.